Hello and welcome back to another fine and exciting edition of It's Just About Time, and in today's episode I talk about the Bremont Alt 1B, a very underrated watch from Bremont Watches. So I'm back in one of my favourite little filming locations here to talk about the Bremont Alt 1B. This is a watch that I recently acquired secondhand from Chrono24. It's a really amazing piece, and the truly amazing thing about this is it's a watch that I thought would be great as like a daily wear, bit of a beater, because the price point was really good. But I didn't expect to fall in love with the watch, and I have, hard. So the Alt 1B is really a do-it-all kind of watch. It is a GMT chronograph with date, has an inner rotating secondary timing bezel, which is nuts, and is DLC coated. On top of that, this is one of those Bremont watches where the metal itself has been strengthened by the EBE 2000 process, which allows the metal to have a strength of up to 2000 Vickers, which is very cool because it means that the scratch resistance of this watch is as supreme as it's likely to get. Now, the only marring point about that is that it doesn't also have the Martin Baker shock mount nor a Faraday cage, so that's a bit of a shame, and I think if it did have those things it would make it just the ultimate watch. On the other hand, a comment from Bremont which I got recently was to say that that particular movement, they'd never had any real issues with magnetism nor with shock. So I guess that just means that it's a bit more robust than not, so that's really cool. So the movement inside is the BE54AE, that is Bremont's designation for essentially a modified ETA 7754 Valjoux, where the day function has been subsumed by the GMT function. But that's pretty cool because I find personally a GMT very handy as a Brit living in a foreign country. To say that I really like this piece is an understatement. I've sort of seen them on eBay and Chrono24 over the last couple of years, and I've sort of been tempted to buy one. So the really great thing about this watch, if you're buying it, is that it's a very unpopular model. I know that's not a great selling point, but you have to understand that blackout watches are very particular. Blackout watches themselves were designed for military applications, because obviously when you're in foreign climes being shot at, the last thing you need is your watch giving away your position. So that's the whole point of the dial of this, is it's supposed to be subtle. Now, the Alt 1B was actually developed specifically for the American Air Force for the B-2 bomber crews. There is a YouTube video of one of the B-2 bomber crew pilots talking about how they approached Bremont to make them a watch that was designed specifically for their squadron and for their aircraft. Now, I don't know if necessarily the Alt 1 range came out of that on its own. I think they already had the world timer version. This particular model of watch is basically the altitude world timer watch, but featuring a timing bezel rather than the world timer markers. Now, it's sort of up to you to decide, would the world timer markers be more useful? Certainly for the GMT functionality, I think it would. On the other hand, I probably get far more use out of a timing bezel than I do a GMT. I still use a GMT because I'm a Brit living in Canada. It's very useful for me to be able to, at a glance, see what time it is in England, or to be able to just determine whether it's AM or PM. Now, I know that sounds a little weird, but you have to remember, I work very weird hours myself, so there are certain times a year when I will have taken a nap or whatever, and I can't tell if I've slept for 2 hours or 20 hours, and sometimes I do. So at a glance, being able to see, okay, it's AM or PM, judging by the position of the GMT hand, that is personally for me very useful. So a central GMT, as is featured on this watch, is actually still of a lot of value. I prefer it. I like having a 24-hour time. So the Alt 1B is one of the first of Bremont's altitude series that came out back in 2012. It's a really great piece. It's a robust case, 43 millimeters in diameter, about 16.7 millimeters thick, so it's a chunky boy for sure. But then again, most chronographs do tend to be that, and this one is not just a chronograph. The subdial at 12 is a 30-minute register, the subdial at 6 is a 12-hour register, and then you have the sub-seconds at 9 o'clock. With the timing bezel, it is indeed one of those features that you just find you either use or you don't. Now, you don't necessarily have to use this for the sort of purposes it was designed for a dive watch, which of course is, you know, timing the dive. In this case, you could time your lunch break, or if you're doing laundry and you need to know when 45 minutes is up or whatever, or boiling an egg. Any amount of applications, it just can be simple. It's very easy to rotate that bezel, line up the 12 o'clock marker with the minute hand, and just have a single and simple reference. I will admit that the blackout dial does make it a little hard to read those in certain conditions, but as you can see from these daylight shots, reading the watch face is no problem when you're out and about. It is very bright, very vibrant, and if it's catching the light, it's really, like, not at all a problem to read. If you're indoors, it's a little bit more of a challenge, as you have to sort of move the dial around to catch the light, but also, you know, you have to remember the nature of what this watch was made for. This was made as a military watch, and this is the commercially available version of this watch, so you can't really expect this to have the same sort of instant legibility as a regular everyday watch. It's not built for that purpose, but saying that, it is still easy to determine the time, because the hour hand, the minute hand, the running seconds, and even the chronograph seconds hand are very, very easy to read. So even in indoor conditions where I can't quite see the marks on the dial, it is very easy for me to tell what time it is. And I find that the rest of the functionality, it doesn't really matter that I can't see it always instantly, and that I have to do a little bit of work in order to read that. It's just one of those compromises that I don't mind making for this particular watch, because it's the nature of the watch. It's a stealth watch, it's a blackout watch. This is a really great piece for military personnel, particularly pilots, but I think if you were Army or Marine or even Navy, if you were looking for a watch to take with you out on some excursion to some foreign clime, well, you know what, I don't think you would be doing too badly with this. I bought this watch because it was the right kind of price. I did not need this watch. Those of you who have seen my other videos have seen that I've bellyached about the fact that I had too many watches and I'm trying to get rid of a few. Buying this was really not on the plans, and so the fact that I ended up with it is just the fact that it was such a good price, I could not turn it down. I've seen it before on eBay and Chrono24 for, you know, a fairly low price. It's a very unloved model because of the blackout design. And it's a bit of a shame because it's a really great watch, and if you see this in the flesh, like, no photograph has ever done this watch justice. Not even the promotional materials from Bremont look particularly appealing. It's only when you get this on the wrist and you see the reflection of the dial in the light and everything that it really strikes you as being great. I would say check this out on eBay and Chrono24, because very often you will see this particular piece listed for less than half its retail price. Now, I picked this up for an absolute steal. I kind of feel embarrassed about how much I paid. I saw this up already for a very low price. In fact, this was up for about 2,500 Canadian dollars, which is roughly $17.50 American. I'm not quite sure what that is in British pounds. I don't have the conversion value on me, but it is way less than its retail price. This retails in Canada for $8,700. Now, you might wonder, is this watch really worth that much? I would say yes. I would say that, you know, Bremont make a fantastic piece. They make an excellent watch case. They really don't pull any punches when it comes to the engineering of these watches. They invest in really great movements for these things. Now, this is an ETA Valjoux 7754 with slight modifications by Bremont. It's not like massively modified. It's not like they they do a huge amount to it, but it's a chronometer grade movement, so you're getting a great movement, and you are getting a piece that's just, you know, the moment you put it on, you'll be like, wow, it's really awesome on the wrist. I can't overstate how much I really enjoy wearing this piece. The moment I put it on, I was like, damn, I like that so much more than I thought I would. I actually bought this because I kind of just wanted a daily wear Bremont piece. Not to say that my Supermarine S2000 isn't a good daily wear, but it's, you know, it's a little bit of a bigger piece. Sometimes I just want to wear something a little bit slight, or slighter. I like big watches anyway, so it's not like I want something that's completely wimpy, but it's nice to have something that's a bit of a more of an outdoor knocking around watch. And this is exactly what I thought this would be, and it totally is. I love the idea that this is a sort of watch I would go orienteering with, or any number of activities. Certainly a watch that I would wear to the gym, maybe on a NATO or rubber strap rather than the bracelet. And it's just really a fantastic piece, and it's definitely a piece that works best outdoors. This wasn't really designed to be for your typical suited businessman or, you know, desk divers. This was really designed to get out there and do some stuff. The biggest negative of this is something that you won't discover until you try to do it, which is to take it on or off its bracelet. I tried this last night where I was trying to decouple the bracelet from the piece. Wasn't so hard getting it off, but putting it back on again, oh boy, that was an adventure. Trying not to scratch the watch. This is where the DLC coating really shines, is because, you know, the amount of dicking around I have to do to try and get the lugs back in. And the reason I took it off the bracelet was because I wanted to see what it looked like on a black NATO, and I have to say it looks stunning on a black Haverston General Service NATO. I absolutely adore this on the black NATO. I might keep it on that, but taking it on and off is such a pain in the butt. So that's one negative I have, is that it's very, very fiddly, and it's very easy to scratch your watch that way. In conclusion, this watch is fantastic. It does so many cool things. It's really robust, well built. I love the blackout design way more than I thought I would. I'm actually genuinely surprised, because I thought I'll like it, but I never expected to actually love it. It's only when you see it like reflected in the light you really get like, oh yeah, I can see why people like this sort of a dial. I could also see why people don't like it, but it's just one of those things where once you try it, you sort of, you get what this watch is about. It's a very subtle watch. It's a terrible value proposition, at least if you're selling it, but it's a fantastic watch if you're buying secondhand, and it does everything. And this has become my daily wear. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about it other than the fact that I love it a bit, and I'm happy to have my, technically my third Bremont. I guess it's really the second one that I own at the moment, in addition to the Bremont S2000. I am still hoping to get the S502, but that's a story for another time. So thank you very much everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this review of the Bremont Alt 1B, and I'll see you all on the next one.